Hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast, where you'll learn how to host a high-converting virtual summit that leads to your biggest signature offer launch yet. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and a while back, I asked members of our Summit Host Hangout Facebook group what questions they wanted me to answer on the podcast. And this one, asked by Abigail, was an instant addition to the list of upcoming episodes for me. I was originally planning on just doing one episode that was like a rapid-fire Q&A type thing, but this one totally deserved an episode all of its own. So here was Abigail's question. She said, what do you do when someone questions your ethics? Someone said that doing 48 hours free access and then having to pay for access feels like a trick and makes them feel uncomfortable about my tactics. She said, I don't agree because I hope I make it very clear from the start. I'm happy that I'm not being a trickster, but when you feel like you are an ethical, transparent business owner and people say you're not, how do you deal? And I'm really excited to dive into this one. I've dealt with this plenty over the years in varying capacities, and I would guess that anyone who has reached a certain level of success in their business has, right? You charge anything for anything. People are going to question you and try to make you feel guilty so they can get it for free. So maybe I'll start by saying congratulations, Abigail. Congratulations for having someone, start throwing that weapon at you. That's really what they're trying to use it as, at least in my mind. The thing about summits is that they're an extremely effective way to get you in front of a lot of people in your audience. And when you get exposed to a lot of people, there's always going to be a few of like, quote unquote, those people. Like, for real, nothing brings them out more than a free summit because it's free. And that's not to say that I believe that summits attract, quote unquote, low quality leads. You can listen to episode 197 for more on that. We'll link to that in the show notes. But they are accessible to people that paid offers are not accessible for. And I've found that people have all kinds of pricing and strategy mindset when they're not in a place, when they're willing to invest a little and get the help they're looking for. And that's not like a blanket statement, okay? So please don't take that the wrong way. But that's when the types of people who have issues with everything tend to stand out the most, right? They're not willing to invest in themselves and they're not willing to invest in their business. So they think you are like slighting them by pushing them to invest and encouraging them to invest. So I'm going to start by giving my high-level answer to Abigail's question, and then I'll talk through some examples of where I run into this and where you might run into it too, in business or when you host a summit. So to answer the question, how do you deal with negative comments and perceptions from other people? In full transparency, I have handled this better at some times than in others, okay? But I'll start by kind of giving you a couple steps here. First, the most important thing you can do here is stay true to yourself, your ethics, your integrity, and what feels good to you. It's the most important thing. Okay? If you stray from those things and you do something that's outside of your integrity, something that doesn't feel good to you, and someone calls you out for it, that's going to hurt. I've been there, done that. Not good. Okay? If something feels off that you're doing, take the time to think through it or find someone to talk through it with rather than force it. Okay? And I'm not saying that anytime something feels uncomfortable, that's a sign that you shouldn't do it. Sometimes it could be a mindset issue of your own that you need to work through. But if something feels off, like I want you to pause and figure out why that is. Okay? I want you to feel really confident in what you're doing so that when the comments come, you feel really grounded in what your decision was. And, you can kind of think through it like, okay, this is what they think, that's their perception, but here's why I know that's not the case. Okay? My second tip for you here is to have someone else deal with it as much as possible. Okay? Kate on my team is my first line of defense, and she does not let a whole lot get through to me. Okay? Like if there's an actual constructive piece of feedback I need to consider, or there's like ever a theme with several people taking issue on the same thing, she will pass that along in a gentle way so that I can, rethink things. But I'm not seeing and reacting to those things myself in the moment. And that is so important for me and my energy. I'm very highly sensitive. And like something like that can put me down for a day. And I need to protect myself and the business from that. Because if I'm constantly down from negative comments from people, I can't do a darn thing, right? That's something I've built in that has been really important for me. However, there are some times where she hasn't caught it. She doesn't check my comments on Instagram. And we run ads on Instagram. So people say some crappy things on there. She doesn't check, comments on other social media platforms. She does not check my DMs. Every once in a while, this is a lesson learned now, but earlier this year, or I guess in 2023, I sent out a feedback survey and I read those before she did. So she doesn't catch everything. And I do tend to have a very strong hurt reaction at first. Like I am truly hurt and like just feel it in my chest. I feel anxious. I try to reason my way out of it or reason, my way into why they were wrong, even though no matter what I come up with, it still really sucks. But once that initial reaction is gone, I go back to my original decision and why I felt good about it. Okay. I think about, after working with my coach on this, I think about what that person could have experienced to make them think or feel what they do. I look at what might they have missed that could make them think that. Okay. And again, thanks to my coach, her name is Caitlin Kessler. You should definitely look her up. I can't control other people's experiences and perceptions, right? Like think about it. The only way to make everyone happy would be to do literally everything you do in your business for free. And that's not a business. That's not how the world works. And honestly, people still wouldn't be happy. They would still take issue in something you were doing. And if you gave them it all for free, like they wouldn't take anything seriously. You wouldn't make as big of an impact. They wouldn't be able to get as big of an impact. So like that's clearly not the answer. Okay. So I don't know if like that's, quite the step-by-step you were looking for, but those are the two things that help me the most. Always staying true to myself and my ethics and my integrity, not doing something that doesn't feel good to me just because someone said I should. And then second, I hand off dealing with that to someone else so that I can kind of be guarded from it unless I really need the feedback. So I want to walk you through some examples here of things that have come up for me, Abigail, for some things that you might run into, and hopefully that it can help some of you in experiences you come across. So I'll start with summit-specific examples here. So the first one, Abigail, I'm grabbing your example. Having free access available for a limited time and then going to paid access. Here is why I feel really good about offering this, okay? A summit is something of very high value that you could easily charge for. You could easily charge for those presentations. People charge of things that are far less value than a summit, right? I feel great about offering free access to summits for a limited amount of time. They can serve and help everybody, no matter where they're at in life, business, or the world. Giving 24-hour access means everyone has the same 24 hours to access. It doesn't matter what time they sleep. Everyone has 24 hours. Up it to 48 hours. I've been doing that lately. That gives them even more time, right? Sit in that feeling and energy. Sit in the fact that you are giving people so much value, and the time limit on it is going to encourage them to take action if it's something that they truly think will be a value for them, okay? I also never hide the fact that access is limited. And Abigail, I know you use our Summit in a Box system, so I know you don't either. So it's not a bait and switch, okay? Like, it's 24-hour access. You made that very clear from the beginning. It's not like you're like, oh, JK, thanks for getting your free ticket. You're going to have to pay now. You didn't hide that from them. It's on their registration page. It's everywhere. I'm sure you mentioned it several times in emails leading up to the event. I'm sure you mentioned it the day of. There's no bait and switch. Okay. You're always letting them know that's a thing. So I feel great about using a model that lets me give everyone access to the thing for free, even if it's just for a little while. What else does that? Courses, conferences, there aren't other things that give actual value for free. You have to buy into it, So just own that. Just feel really good about that. Okay. As for how I walk through negative feedback here, because I have gotten it, honestly, this one does not bother me. This one, in my mind, is just so silly. It does not bring me down at all. I so firmly believe that I'm serving these people well through the free event and through the All Access Pass. I just don't get shaken here, okay? I would realize that this person did not read the page. That is not my fault, okay? And I also realize if they didn't read the page, it does feel like a bait and switch to them, right? That's also not my fault. I can be empathetic and see where they're coming from, but it's not my fault. And I think a kind response is all that's needed here. You don't have to give them any kind of long response and reasoning. Sometimes it will just trigger them more if you try to walk them through it. But if you want a longer response, you can let them know it was made clear on the page. You're sorry if they missed it. And express that your intention with the free event is that it's something with enough value to be paid, but you wanted everyone to have the opportunity to experience it. And it's okay if they don't want to upgrade, and that you hope that they can enjoy the presentations that are most relevant to them within the 24 or 48 hour window. Really, our responses are usually much shorter, oh, so sorry for that misunderstanding. It wasn't our intention to be misleading. We hope you can enjoy the presentations within the, whatever hour window. So a kind response is really all that's needed here. The next place in a summit that you might get this type of feedback is with a fast action offer. And I would say this is the biggest place you'll get a reaction from people in your summit, especially for those of you in the business to consumer space. So you're not marketing to other business owners. It's a super common practice for us in the business world, but it can be surprising for someone who has not seen it before. And again, their thoughts, experiences, perceptions are going to decide how they think and react. And for this one specifically, I do want you to keep in mind who your audience is when you're making this decision. Like, for example, we have a couple clients who host their summits for people who have a traumatic background. And the summit is about that. And they don't do the fast action offer because they don't want to trigger any type of trauma response. If you have an audience of older people who will have to get up from their computer, go out to the car, get their purse, get their credit card, go back to their computer, type it all in, mess it up a couple times, maybe you give them longer than 20 or 30 minutes so they have time for all that, right? Keep your audience in mind. And this also goes back to checking in with your ethics and integrity and values before you make the decision. Some people feel very strongly against a fast action offer, and that's okay. If you feel that way, don't do it. Why I decided to do it and why I feel okay with it is that I think if someone is willing to grab this offer, they trust me and everything enough to grab this offer before they've even seen the summit, they deserve a discount. If they're excited enough to take action, I want to award that. And if they're not ready right away, that's totally okay. And they'll have additional opportunities to grab it, and it will still be a great value for what they're getting. The fact that it was discounted at some point does not take away from the value they're going to get from it. And I'm not charging more than I should. So that's why I feel just fine about doing it. And this one is tough for me because I know some people have very strong feelings about it, but I'm just very unfazed by it. Both as a business owner and as a consumer, I love it. I don't know. I'm all about a fast action offer. But overall, if you think your audience needs a little more time to make the decision, increase the timer. If you think your audience will have a truly harmful response from it, remove the timer. But if you think some people might just have ruffled feathers from having to make a decision, I'm okay with letting that be okay because they'll have more opportunities to join later on. Again, a canned response is a lifesaver here. And for those of you with a Summit in a Box or our accelerator program, you have our canned response for that. All right, the next one you might get is making your offer after the summit. And I have never actually had an issue here. If you're in our Launch with the Summit Accelerator program, I'm confident you won't either. I've never heard of a client getting negative feedback from an attendee or speaker about their launch, just because the strategies we teach take all of this into account. But I think if you go about launching through your summit in the wrong way, it could definitely happen. You could get bad feedback here. So for this one, I don't have experience to speak from. But again, make sure you're thinking through things ahead of time so you feel good about them and confident. If you truly believe you're serving your attendees better through your offer, and you can make the offer without taking away from the free event they were promised, make the offer. But also be mindful of how you make it so it doesn't feel like a bait and switch. So they're not signing up for the transformation, then you're saying, oh, JK, you can't get the transformation without this offer. Don't do that. You also want to make sure they're not getting hit over the head with your offer again and again and again when they originally just signed up for the summit. So be very mindful with all of this. Again, if you're following our summit to launch strategies, you're good to go. We take all of that into account. All right. So those are a few summit specific places that I could see this coming up. Someone questioning your ethics because of, their own perceptions of things. There's a few other things that I've come across that I figured I would talk about in this episode. It's a good vent session for me, if nothing else. Sending too many emails is something else that I've seen come up a time or two. I've gotten this feedback, especially during launches. And I've also taken that seriously, right? I have become more conscious of how many emails are happening during a launch. And now I almost always have an opt-out link in our launch emails. And I didn't respond to it the best in the moment the first few times. People were like, wow, you send way too many emails. I'm like, get out of here. I'm running a business. Go away if you don't like it. Opt out and I'll opt them out. But after the initial response that I'm not always great with, that's when I can be more thoughtful about things. And that's why Kate checks emails. So I'm not unsubscribing people. Or giving snarky responses. I don't think I would actually ever send a snarky email. I would just say in my head. But like I said, I almost always have an opt-out link in any launch email. So it says something like, don't want to hear about this enrollment period again. No worries, click here to let me know. And you won't hear about it again during this enrollment period. Super easy to add. And just I feel respects people's boundaries and inbox and all that stuff. I know some people are like, hey, if they don't want to buy, they don't have to be on the list. But I really firmly believe that people will buy when they're ready. And my emails serve people even if they can't afford our offers. And I am okay with them being on my list. So I like having the opt-out option. But other than that, I stay very unfazed by this kind of feedback. Again, Kate handles it all for me, so it's easy for me to say I'm unfazed when I don't see it. But it's not going to bother me if they don't want my emails. Like they were clearly having a bad day if they had to respond and tell me instead of just hitting unsubscribe, or they're super tech challenged if they couldn't find the unsubscribe link. Overall, if someone doesn't want to hear from me, they do not have to be on the email list. So I'm going to send the emails. Another place I've gotten interesting feedback before and people have questioned my ethics is claims of client results. And this is usually on Facebook ads. And, I feel like you take any Facebook ad comments with a grain of salt because holy smokes, there are some people out there. But it's like people telling me to prove it. People saying I'm cherry picking with the examples I give, saying I'm making up the numbers. And honestly, this one just annoys me more than anything else because those things aren't true. Like if I was really making up the numbers, I'm sure I'd be ticked about it, right? Like, oh my gosh, they saw through me. I actually feel bad for the people that think this and for the people who leave those comments because they can't even imagine that level of success for themselves. So much they think I'm lying about the results I show from my clients. And that just makes me sad that they can't even picture that for themselves. So when that happens, usually I don't respond and just delete the comment. Sometimes I will send a link to our testimonials page that has mostly screenshots of client testimonials and results. And if someone really wants to claim that I made those in Photoshop or something, I can't help them with that. I guess I could send them a direct link to the post, but yeah, there are some people you just can't help. So again, it doesn't faze me because I'm clearly not lying about our client results. So I have nothing, they can question my ethics, but it's just not true. It reflects more on them than it does on me. And this is the last one. Yes, the last one I have is people saying that I sell too much. And I would guess that Kate has protected me from a little of this, but I did get to see it for myself once last year in a workshop I ran, and I've talked about this before. You can hear more of my experience in response to this particular situation in episode 248 with my coach, Caitlin Kessler. But this one did get me. I was told that I was acting like a bro marketer, that my offers were too good to sell the way I was selling them. And I literally got a list from someone of where I was and was not allowed to sell in my business. And there were 2 people actually that told me I was selling too much. So that's what really got me, the fact that it wasn't 1 but 2. It's like, okay, there's something here. And due to the types of people it came from, it did sting. They were Summit in a Box students who had joined a paid workshop. And I think because they pointed out the exact things that I never want to be perceived as in business, my reaction wasn't pretty. It crushed me. There was a lot of hurt and self-doubt and questioning everything. But that's what I have a coach for. And she turned me right back around here. And if I had to go back, I would do the same thing. I would make the same offer. I would talk about it in the same way because that is serving the people better that I was there to serve. And just because other people had a negative perception of the fact that I made them an offer and they were triggered because of a past experience they've had, maybe with investing in an offer that didn't pay off, or I don't know what causes people's negative selling mindset. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't have sold. And that particular offer that I made brought in, 5 to 7 new clients into our accelerator program who are so grateful and glad to be there. And that is why I made the offer and why I will keep making my offers. If I think I can serve someone better by making an offer, I'm going to make it. And I'm sure there are people listening to this podcast who get their feathers ruffled when I talk about my offers, or when an episode is angled more towards encouraging you to join one of our programs instead of just practical step-by-step advice. But I know that I can serve every single one of you so much better through our programs. So much better. I will never stop making the invite. I want you to be in there and to experience what a summit can truly be like. And I want you to stand in that confidence with your offers too. Okay? So overall, when you get feedback in your summit, in your business, in life, whatever, see where people are coming from, right? Empathize, see if anything actually needs to be done, change if you need to, but otherwise just feel confident in the decisions you're making. You cannot let other people tell you how to run your business, especially when they clearly don't know a darn thing about running a business. At my level, I should not be taking business advice from people who haven't made a penny, right? Same with you. At your level, you should not, no matter what level you're at, even if you haven't made a penny, you shouldn't be listening to people who have not made a penny. Yeah, you got to run your business and stay true to who you are, okay? I have implemented strategies before directly from other people where I've been I'm not so sure about this, but it works for them and this is what I should do. And I do the thing and my audience takes issue with it. That hurts because I know they're right. And that's when it hits you hard. Okay, so as long as you know that the things you're doing, strategies you're using align with you and your values and they are going to serve your people, you just got to let other people like have their thoughts, have their opinions, and know that it's going to be okay. All right. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode. For show notes and resources mentioned, head to the link in the episode description. And now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your high converting virtual summit.